Nathan Amaral, good morning. How are you, brother?
Good morning. Good, man. It's good afternoon for me, but good morning to you. Good to be here.
So where are you right now? What time is it over there?
That's like the number one question I get asked, after all these years of traveling. Right now, I'm currently in the islands of the Azores. It's the motherland. It's the homeland to Fall River, right? I mean, that's where I'm at, man.
You're in the old country.
I'm in the old country. It's exactly where the real Potes da Cidade is in Azores. Yeah.
So have you been back home? Have you seen our fake one, the one we got in Fall River?
Yeah, I definitely was there. Absolutely. I was actually there for the grand opening per se. And coming to the Azores at San Miguel specifically over the years since I was a young boy, I mean, literally almost every year. It means a lot to me. And so, being Fall River, being my roots, the city I was born in, that having a replica of the gates of the city is, I think, one of the coolest things, because there's Portuguese people all over the world, but having the gates of the city in Fall River is pretty memorable.
We're the only city with the gates, aside from the original city with the gates.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really great. It's great.
That's wild. So Nate, you called me the other day out of the blue. So I got to know, it was the interview with Dave Ferreira, right? That's where you were like, hey, wow, these guys are in Fall River doing stuff.
Yeah, so I reached out to Dave because I was sending him a referral, which I still do when it comes up. Dave is actually my old boss when I used to be in the mortgage business. And I learned a lot from Dave. One thing I learned very specifically in regards to building a business was his yellow pad. I don't know if you've ever seen him with this. Have you? Have you ever seen him with his yellow pad?
Yeah.
So Dave had his yellow pad and he would do his little triangles. But let me tell you, that little lesson that I learned from him, he taught me a lot, even though I was going through some weird stages in my life during that point. But I saw his interview with you and I'm like, hey, I know we've ran into each other before in passing, but we never really were in the same circles at that time in life. But I saw what you were doing, because when I saw you interviewing Dave, I was like, oh, cool, this guy's in real estate. Oh, he's in training people. Wow, in Fall River? So I had to reach out. I was like, hey man, I've been in this business for like 15 years. I got started, I like to say I first enrolled into a program in Providence, Rhode Island. And then I started my business on those very streets of Fall River, Somerset, Swansea, Seekonk, and even into Rhode Island over the years. So yeah, that's where it all got started.
So it's crazy. So I know you've been in the speaker circuit for a long time. You're almost like a coach to the coaches, right? Is that kind of what you've been doing?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I actually I started off investing in a program. I learned how to do real estate. I did a lot of door knocking, door hangers. Man, this was before the internet is what it was today, before we have email marketing. Man, I was submitting offers and setting out deals to my cash buyers via eFax. Yep. That's how far back that goes. And even some of the guys that are still doing real estate in Fall River, they were my cash buyers back in the day. I grew that business, and then I eventually started investing in different states. And then as I got hired into the industry by some of the bigger, I call them the big boys of the industry, the guys you see on TV or radio, and they have books and stuff like that, got hired by those guys. Rich Dad Education, Trump University, and no matter, I mean, people have all different kinds of opinions about those two guys and whatever. But for me, that gave me the education to learn how to coach and train people. And then I got picked up by a guy in Boston who owns over 8,000 apartments. I worked for him for 3 years. And that's how I got into apartment investing. My love for coaching people came out of that company. And I started my own consulting company back in 2009. And then, yeah, because of what I did for those other guys and for that guy in the industry, I got hired by the guys that I used to see on stage, Bud, the guys I used to go to their seminar and take notes. Yeah. A few years later, they were all hiring me to help them build their real estate business. And so, yeah, when it comes to being a coach or as a consultant to those other education companies, yeah, I did that for 10 years. Still do it a little bit today. I mostly work one-on-one with individuals now who want to start and build and grow their real estate business. I don't do it as much as I used to. I have a few other projects going on, but yeah, it's definitely, that's 12 years and 12 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's Nathan. That's like the perfect way to do this interview is just you're very informative. You run the timeline. So you started in real estate. You eventually became a coach, a mentor, and now you're shifting back into other projects. Before we jump into those, because that's I mean that's ultimately really what I want to talk about is what you're doing right now in the market. But what kind of projects were you doing here in the area? Were you doing flips? Were you doing wholesaling? Buy and holds?
That's a great question, man. I was, first of all, a little context. I was broke. I was driving my 1989 beat up Toyota Corolla with the blinking lights on the inside, with a disco ball. Yeah, I mean, it was like that, you know, and that was what I was doing. And you know, one thing that I just had the drive, and at that time I was very afraid. I had to have some, like, you know, help. I went through a Tony Robbins program that really just literally changed my life. My life has never been the same since that training. And after I did that, I just went all in and I started investing in Fall River. I mean, the streets, all around the North End, Eastern Avenue, branched over to Somerset. And I started, because I had no money and I knew what I needed to do. My coach was teaching me, you don't have the money, but you have the time. You have the resources. The guys who have the money don't have the time and the resources that you do. So go and work for them as your own business owner and you know, get paid a fee. So I was still scared. I built a buyer's list. I had about, I think, like 16 guys on my buyer's list. Some of them you probably know. And one of the things that I still didn't, you know, put offers out. My coach ended up flying to my area and, you know, we met in Rhode Island. I picked him up from the airport and he said, hey man, we went down to the clerk's office, the assessor's office in Fall River. I got to tell you this story. We went to City Hall, right? The day before he got there, I went to City Hall and I went to go get an assessor's foreclosures list, right? 2 lists. I went down there and they didn't give me the list. Dude, I was young. I didn't know what to say. I was nervous. The next day, my coach flies in. He's like, hey, did you get the lists? I said, no. So we run over by Dunkin' Donuts. We show up in there. He's in there. He's from North Carolina. He starts talking in with his Southern accent, his Southern swang, and he goes in there. He gets both lists. Oh, man. I learned a lot from him in 3 days. And you know what? Out of that list, I submitted 11 offers. Out of those 11 offers, 4 got accepted. I closed on 2. The other 2, I didn't know what I was doing, so they just fell apart. But I closed on 2, man. I made about $18,000.
Wow.
When I made that money, real estate became real to me, because before that, I was just going to seminars, man. And real estate became real when I closed those 2 deals. And that's it. After that, it was on fire.
Wow. Yeah, it was just like a theory, and it's all imagination.
Yeah.
And you're learning, analysis paralysis, and then
exactly.
Your coach actually flew out. That's pretty crazy. Is your coach still coaching, or are they rich and retired at this point?
He actually doesn't coach anymore. I actually did visit with him. I met with him years later, and he just kept saying, "Hey man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, I haven't done as much as you've done, you know? And he's just like, no, man, your tenacity and what you're doing. At the time, I had already transitioned into apartments, but so he's not really actively coaching anymore. He's more on the retired side, but he's nice. Still there.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that everybody thinks we'll do this forever. And I'm very clear with my students. Look, I'll be coaching for a short period of time. This is like my giving back. And like you said at the beginning of this call, it feels like giving back, right? Like you do it because you know it's the right thing to do, but you know there's other things you want to do in your life. So
well, I think anyone who's coaching people on how to build a business, they have a heart for giving back. I always tell people that real estate is my passion, but consulting is my calling. It's my God-given gift, man. It's like I see things in businesses, and maybe it comes from when I used to work in a manufacturing in Fall River. I used to work on a little assembly line, and I used to have to watch. You couldn't take so many steps. I had to be very careful and calculated at what I was doing. And so when I look at businesses today, especially real estate businesses, I'm very calculated. I take action quickly. And now I even push my clients to, you know, take action quickly, overcome the fear and move forward, you know? So that's really important.
Yeah, I love that. What factory did you work at in the city?
Okay. It wasn't one of those big factories, but it was it was a bread facility. It was my dad's bakery. Okay.
It wasn't Gold Medal Bakery, was it?
No, but we're very close to it.
I worked there. So
did you work at Gold Medal?
I know about the assembly line.
You know about the assembly line,
Yeah.
yeah. So my dad, I mean, basically just shrink that down compared to gold medal, shrink that down a lot.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you know about the assembly line. You know you have to like keep your eyes. You know sometimes you can only take a few steps to the left or 2 steps to the right because you got a lot going on there, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that experience helped me to manage my steps in that position, but also in life and business.
Yeah, it's solid. So you're one of those people who puts things together. You just see trends, you see
Yeah,
patterns,
absolutely.
you repeat over and over successful things that have helped you out.
Yeah.
What? So you were doing wholesaling. You're doing wholesaling.
Correct. I was doing
Then
wholesaling. Yeah.
you got a coach that got you into apartments. What was that
Well,
transition like?
no, actually, the coach was for my wholesaling.
Okay.
That actually really helped me got started. Then I started doing lease options. I started going after pre-foreclosures until they became illegal. The state of Rhode Island stopped allowing us to go after pre-foreclosures. During that time, I started getting an itch for the mortgage industry, and it was all along with that same time, right? So
Yep.
I started getting into mortgages. I started doing a little bit of real estate, and I wanted just to expand. I really like the finance world. So I'm even to this day, and we can talk on that later, but I really like finances. So I got into the mortgage business as well, and I was doing that and closing deals. And so from there, it wasn't until that I got hired by a guy who owns like 8,000 apartments around the country. That's when I transitioned into multi-units. I really learned that side of the business from his organization.
Right. So how did you get this job? Right. Like I'm relatively successful, but I've still considered going and working for some like a monster company, right? Like I've
Yeah.
still considered it as an acquisitions guy. What did you do there? How'd you get the job?
So interesting enough, right? I was in a very unique position in my life. I actually took like this sabbatical. I've done like 2 sabbaticals in my life, and this time I was actually at a boys and girls camp in Florida because I was trying to figure out my life. I had made a bunch of money, and actually, unfortunately, bud, I was addicted to gambling. And I lost a lot of money. I
Yep.
did. A lot of the guys that are around me in the mortgage business, and not David. I don't want to. I know I brought him up, but
Oh,
there was
Dave's a
other
badass.
companies there was companies I was working for, just the influence, man. I got started spending money on another level that was ridiculous. So I went down to Florida in this boys and girls camp, and I just started while I was down there, I was just having like this, revelation. I was there as what do they call those mentors, right?
The
Doing
volunteer, like yeah.
volunteer mentor, right? Just kind of
Yeah.
just taking some time out.
Yeah.
And this guy called me and he said, and he was actually from the organization. He said, "Hey, I heard about you from another person." And I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, right now I'm at a summer camp. I'm climbing walls and zip lining. I mean, that's what I'm doing." And he's like, "Oh, are you still in real estate? Because I noticed that that you've done real estate. I looked you up online, and I saw that you used to work for the Wealth Intelligence Academy." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, we're in real estate and we're looking for, a guy with experience." I was like, "Sure." He's like, "Can you come to the office on Tuesday?" I was like, "Sure." So went to the office on Tuesday. Actually, when I got to the office, interesting thing enough, I didn't know it was who he was. And he said, "Well, I saw your experience and I'm looking for a guy who can help me manage my company and build it. And you have a real estate experience, so that really helps. So let's do it. Let's rock and roll." And because of his experience, I was like, this is it. This is my opportunity. I want to learn from him. So I put single family real estate, I just put it down to the side. I just wasn't doing it anymore. And I got started in apartments. That's really how I made that transition. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Now, when you say apartments, was it still local or was it all across the country? Were they like what scale size?
So interesting enough, when I was like making this transition, I actually started partnering at first. I partnered with a guy in Texas. I partnered with another guy in Georgia. And then I started acquiring some of my own properties. I did some deals in Rhode Island, which I sold. I had some partners along the way because I wasn't like doing the whole transaction myself. And nor did I want to. There was a unique thing I discovered, Bud, along the way, and that's called what I call my high income skill. I'm horrible in the details. I'm horrible in Excel. Don't give me an Excel. I start getting a headache and I walk away.
Yep.
But the reality is I know what my skill set is. So I always have to partner. And still today in the companies that I have partners or I have co-founders. Yeah.
So that's so powerful. I talk about it a lot in mentorship, right? Like I talk about you've got to know your strengths. and get a partner for your weaknesses.
Exactly.
And you identified that your strength is what? It's sales. It's face-to-face, it's communication with somebody.
Absolutely, man. It's face-to-face sales at the age of whatever. You want to know a quick story? So it's a Fall River story, right? At the age of 14, okay? It's actually a funny story too. At the age of 14, I would go to those Herald News boxes. Remember those yellow? Okay.
Yep.
I would go to those boxes, put 25 cents in at the time, and I would take a stack, but I didn't know better. I swear to God. I took a stack of newspapers. I was like, 25 cents. Okay. I would take like 8 of them out. I'd go to the corner and I'd put 25-cent sign just right there on Highland Avenue, bud. Like no joke. Right in front of the church, the Methodist church.
Yep.
So I was down there with a 25-cent sign selling newspapers. But remember, I only paid 25 cents for one, but I had like 8 of them.
Yep. The ROI was insane.
So one day the Herald News guy driver picks up. He's like, hey, man, where'd you get those newspapers? I'm like, from the box. And this went on for like a week, by the way, only a week. Yeah. Anyway, that was like my first hustle game. Then I started selling tomatoes. I came up with this service where people on Highland Avenue would pay me $1 to get their barrels from the back of their yard to bring them to the front of the yard every Tuesday night. And on Wednesday morning after the truck guys come, I'd bring it to the back. I had over 30 customers.
Yeah, that's the North End. Trash day is still on Tuesdays.
It's still on So literally I would do that and I make about $30 a week, man. So those were like my little hustles. I was a very shy guy. And also on Saturdays, I'd have a yard sale every day. Every Saturday, I would get stuff from other people and try to sell it at my own little yard sale. Anyway, direct sales, marketing, that's what comes natural to me. Yeah.
It's crazy because you say you're a shy guy, or you were a shy guy, and then you created this sales monster like over the years. What was the transition from shy? Because we have students like this all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm shy, I can't do this." How'd you go from shy to salesperson?
Me personally, bud, because I was super shy and I got into a serious car accident on Duval Street. The EMTs and the police officers were in the hospital saying, "You're lucky to be alive." I don't know if you remember. Well, it's still there, but I know it's changed quite a bit. But Duval Street has that little that hump going down.
Yep.
And I flew off. I was going fast, and I reached down. I grabbed a bunch of CDs. The wheel turned. I turned the wheel, popped the curb, slammed into the pillar.
Wow.
Car spun around. My head got stuck in the windshield. They pulled me out of the passenger door.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, I had those few days in the hospital where I was just like, I could have died and all that stuff. And a few days later, I got introduced. I went to the Staples over, I think it was Staples or Office Depot in Somerset. And I'm walking around the store, and on the bottom rack, there's a CD called Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. Have you ever listened to that?
Yeah, I got it here too.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, I was delivering for Herald News at the time, right? So, and I know I'm going back and forth in my years, by the way, sorry.
People
it's like
can follow this.
My timeline is a little back and forth right now. Yeah. So anyway, I went to this, I got exposed to Tony Robbins. I went to his live event at the age of 18. And this was before I even did my first real estate deal. Yeah. So went to his event. I walked across fire that first night. I went to New Jersey with a friend. We walked across fire. It was insane. That changed my life. Because not just, I can walk on fire. No, that's not it. It was the power, the personal power that I grabbed that day that I said, if I can walk across fire, what else can I do? Right. And I started pushing the envelope. What I ended up doing was I went skydiving. I went skydiving 3 times. I started making offers, right? All that started moving together at the same time. And you have to face your fear. You have to dance with your fear. You have to know what scares you the most and say, how am I going to play with this fear? Because it doesn't go away. Fear doesn't go away. It's always there. You just have to learn to dance with it, address it, and know it's there and move forward.
Yeah, I love that. So you found a way to identify your fears and then get comfortable with them, right? Yeah. So that they didn't paralyze you anymore. Like you just cautiously walked around them. Just like you were talking about being at the bakery, just like you're talking about all your experience in life, you've actually just identified a fear, learned it, respected it. Yes, things could go bad, but you operate around it instead of staying completely away from and away from a place of benefit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Face the fear and do it anyway, bud. Face the fear and do it anyway. That's motto. Yeah.
So you talked about apartments. Obviously, that's my passion. I love apartments. It's why I got into the business. I think a lot of people do. And I don't know, is it something that you've completely gotten away from? And now, because we talked about Uber stock, like I know you're deep into Uber stock, you're deep into Apple stock. Now, and that I think is one of my transitions. Is I'll shift to REITs, like real estate investment trusts, because I understand them. But I think that at some point an investor makes decisions. You built the capital. First you had no money, wholesale, right? So then you shift over, maybe do a couple flips, then you buy some real rental property, to build up your portfolio. At what point, what was your max units you had? How many flips were you doing a year before you shifted out and said, you know what, I've made enough, I'm going to shift to a different, easier, better strategy?
Well, those are great questions that you have, but I want to make something clear to your audience and anyone watching this. Real estate is the number one asset class, the number one wealth vehicle that's produced in the world, right? So everybody, I strongly recommend being in real estate to some capacity, even if you just have one rental and you have a 2-family or whatever, a 4-family, whatever it is. But if you want to go small, then go small. If you want to go big, then go big, whatever is comfortable for you. So real estate, number one. Number two, over the years, I was exposed at a younger age to investments, to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. My ex's dad was a broker, and he encouraged me to go for my Series 7 license. Wow. And I'm not good at tests. I have a very hard time with tests, so that didn't go so well. Also, in Dartmouth, because of Tony Robbins and listening to hang out with successful people, success leaves clues. Yep. I'll never forget this. I was driving that 1989 and I'm driving down the road. It's still there. Financial planning alternatives, Mr. Oliveira. I see that sign. I don't know what the heck they do in there. Yeah. I'm like, financial? I turn my car around, I go inside, and I literally, I'm so gullible. Thank God I was so gullible to every book, every CD I heard. I drive into that parking lot in Dartmouth, and I go in. I remember the secretary, and I said, hey, I'm here to see Mr. Oliveira, looking for who owns this place. Mr. Oliveira says, oh, do you have an appointment? I said, no. I go in there. Mr. Oliveira, 20 minutes later, comes out. He's like, hey, very friendly guy. Hey, how are you, mama? Come on in. He doesn't even know who I am. I sit down. I listen to him for about 20, 30 minutes. He's telling me all his stuff, showing me everything he's got. He's got pictures on the wall, all this stuff. Then after that, he says, what can I help you with? I said, well, actually, Mr. Oliveira, I heard that you're a successful guy. I see all your awards on your wall. I would like you to be my mentor. This is 18 years old. Right? Just listening to this kind of stuff from a CD. He's like, well, what do you mean? What do you want? What do you want me to do with you? I said, honestly, if I can work a few hours a week here and just do whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I just want to learn a little bit along the way.
Yep.
He said, you're starting next week on Monday. Literally, you know what I did, bud? I would call people to remind them for their appointments.
Nice.
And then I'd follow up with them to get them back in. And that's kind of how I got exposed a little bit to those other types of securities, and that passion or that investor mindset, being an investor, is still there. So I do it on another scale: Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Uber. Yeah. And so I'm still there. Now I do hold portfolios of in other types of portfolios like Charles Schwab and TD Waterhouse and the bigger stuff. But when it comes to like small, the handheld stuff, right? I just want to do it on my phone. I like to use an app called Robinhood. I do it with a buddy of mine. He actually got interested in it. And I said, hey man, let's invest together. Let's have some fun. Yeah. And that's like playing around stuff. You're just goofing off on your phone and seeing what you can make and stuff. It's fun. But
if your fingers count.
Yeah, exactly. But if anyone is interested in that kind of investing as a secondary, real estate being number one, that kind of investing, portfolio investing number two, I would recommend get into a portfolio, maybe get with the big boys like Fidelity or Charles Schwab or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm in TD Ameritrade for the big stuff, and then I play with Robinhood for like the itchy fingers. It's like I'm trading this, I'm trading that.
Right. It keeps the brain going. Yeah.
It's engaging. Sometimes like I bought way too many positions. It's way too much. I gotta chill out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So now actually start really young with some financial awareness. 18 is, dude, absolutely fascinating. Like I had all the desire at 18, but I didn't have any guts until I was 25. So a lot of credit on that. And so then you start shifting, right? You're stacking up. I'm sure you're always investing in stocks, and then you're doing the wholesales, then doing the flips, and then you start buying apartments with your partners all across the country.
Right.
Where did you make that transition where you said, you know what, I'm gonna actually shift from apartments? Have you sold everything now, or I think you said you still own some stuff in North Carolina?
No, I did sell some of my apartment deals, the ones in Rhode Island and a few down in South Carolina. I have sold out of those partnerships. They were like 5-year terms, or depending on what was going on, 3-year terms, depending on what the plan was for those. And I've sold out, and then I moved on to other things. For example, when I moved I actually moved to California for a little while. I was pretty much back and forth there for a little bit for a client. And then I moved to North Carolina. And when I was in North Carolina, I was there for about 3.5 years or so. I started building my portfolio there. I love the Carolinas. It's a beautiful place. And so I started doing what's called owner financing properties. Yeah. So what I would do is I'd buy a house all cash, and then I would turn around and help people who would get denied at a bank, right? So they would go to a bank, try to get a mortgage, and they got denied, right? So I would put them into a property and get them a mortgage. I would hold the mortgage, right? And then they would just make monthly payments. And most of those people still make, I still have those notes. Nice. And I sold about 2 or 3 of them over the years, over the past 7-8 years, but I still hold most of those notes. I also do a bunch of land investing in the Carolinas as well. In addition to that, I also do single family stuff. I've done a few rehabs, but I don't like rehabs. But I've done some, sometimes I've done some wholesale deals, depending. It's not like an active part of the business. It's like if we get one, we sell it, right? If we don't like it, we cherry pick. So if we don't like it, we just sell it to our cash buyers. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. We do the same thing. For us, wholesaling is like you said now, like we don't look at it as a mainstream. It's just kind of an accident. Like if we couldn't take it down, it ended up in front of us. It has to belong to somebody else.
Exactly.
So I love that you're doing notes. I did an interview a little while back with Brant Phillips, who wrote the Private Money Lender book. This is for real estate investors, how to collect capital. He's doing the same thing now. He's, all of his rental properties, he's now saying, you know what, when I sell it, seller financing. This way I'll hold some paper, building a type of asset.
Yeah, I'm big into cash flow, man. Actually, my brand under Fearless Millionaire, we talk about creating clarity, building confidence, and creating cash flow.
3 C's. I love it.
Yeah, the 3 C's, exactly. And that is really important. And one of the things, I've invested in over 350 notes. I hold over 40 notes even today in housing. And that, what I realize is when you have these notes, it's that passive or cash flow, that residual income. Cash flow tends to be more of on a business side of it, but this income that keeps coming in, what my buddy, my ex-boss used to say, not in a bad way, ex-boss, but my previous boss, he used to say, you can become, it's unstoppable. These checks just keep coming in over and over. There's nothing you can do to stop the income coming in.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really important. I think that everybody should have an additional stream of income or a side hustle, whatever it is, that you may have your primary job. That's fine, but you need that side hustle. You need that additional income. And that's what's needed. And that's something that I've took into consideration. It's been a lifelong process, man. And, in the beginning, it was all about Nathan. I was only caring about my paycheck and how much money I made and how much I spent on the, whatever, I was hanging out with my friends, buying the bar, even though I don't drink, but buying the bar, just living that life. And then I made the transition, and now it's building wealth for my kids, building wealth for my daughter's daughter, right? Just continuing the legacy. That's really important to me at this point. That's what I put in the time for. Yeah.
Powerful transition. So this is something that I think a lot of people in Fall would completely. I get the same garbage in my city, right? We lived in the same city. We came from the same place.
Yeah.
A lot of people here will question why I teach, and they're like, "Oh, he's just trying to make money." It's like, dude, I promise, the coaching is my smallest source of income.
Yeah.
When you compare it to how much we're making on the flips, we just want to help and give back. So you have that genuine desire. Yeah.
Let me tell you this, man. And I like to be straight with people. I say, listen, my consulting, it's expensive. It's expensive.
Yep.
And if you don't want to pay for it, then it must not be valuable to you. If you don't want your life changed in a whole nother way, then you're not my client. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how I've learned that over the years, that one, my time is valuable. If I'm going to coach someone through a deal and it's going to make you $20,000, no joke. One of my clients literally on Monday, or was it Tuesday, made over $20,000. Another one of my clients on the same day made over $4,000, and another deal for $6,000, around $10,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what they paid for me to consult them to make that happen is a fraction. See, I didn't just teach them how to, I didn't teach them just how to do one deal. I taught them a business model. I taught them how to build cash flow for the rest of your life. Most people go get a degree for 4 years and pay over $100,000.
Yep.
For a degree
Harvard
that you got
$200,000.
Exactly. So anyway, to cut through the fog on that, the reality is what you provide to your clients, the right people will show up, and you just provide great value. And that's one of the great things I like about what you're doing as well.
Thank you, brother. It was when I was able to let go and say, I only want serious people, just charge money, like whatever. That's when everything changed for me, just like you said. So you mentioned kids. I love how you're segueing into this. You mentioned you have a daughter now, and I know you're living in Uganda. Right. I know right now, technically, you're in the Azores, but
Correct.
your Facebook says you're in Uganda. I gotta know, because my good friend Sam, who does all my marketing for me, all my transcriptions and all my videos and website, he lives in Uganda, and so
dude, that's awesome.
Love it. We like talk real estate a little bit. He's young. I think he's in his 20s, and. Every so often he'll ask me questions, but mostly he watches the videos. He's got to transcribe them, and he says, "Man, like I want to do this. This is good. Like I do some real estate."
Yeah.
And real estate's cheap in his town. Well, compared to me, right? Like, so I'm looking at it, and he's saying it used to be cheap. It was $300 a piece of land.
Yeah.
And then he was telling me, maybe now it's $3,000. I'm thinking, like, Sam, like,
depends,
that's possible. That's not too bad.
Yeah. So, definitely depends where it is, but for sure, yeah.
So what's your experience in Uganda? Like, how did you go from traveling the whole country, America, to shifting to Uganda? And then that's where you met your wife, and I assume you still live there?
So this is a much longer story. It's more of a, maybe people can jump over to my YouTube and figure it out or something like that. Okay. But I'll give you like a summary version. Yes. So as a young child, I got exposed to Uganda through my dad and my mom. They took me to, a veterans hall, I think in Rhode Island or something like that. Anyway, these kids came over called the African Children's Choir. They were all from Uganda. They were raising money to help sponsor kids over in Uganda. And interesting enough, my dad tells me, he's like, "Oh, you're going to give me $40 every month from your paper route, and I'm going to use my credit card," because they only take credit card. I mean, we're going back years, almost 20 years ago. So he's like, "We're going to use my credit card, and you're going to give me $40 every month out of your paper route, and we're going to sponsor a child's education."
Wow.
And I was like, "Why?" Like, it's fun, buddy. But my dad, one thing I loved about what my dad did at a young age, he taught me two very important things. One, I always had to give, it was like a thing that my dad taught me, is like, whenever I had my first job, my check went to my dad. Yeah. I don't know if it's a Portuguese thing, but it doesn't matter. My first check went to my dad, and my second income was mine. And then my dad was teaching me this lesson, like, "Hey, I want to give and you shall receive." Yep. And so I had to pick a child, right? He's like, "All right, pick a child on the table." And the truth is, bro, I picked the cutest girl on the table. That's what I did. I was like, "I'm going to pick this cute girl," So
Save it, Amaral.
Yeah, that was what it is. So anyway, so I became pen pals with this sponsor child. We just started, became friends, pen pals, right? So we became pen pals, started writing letters back and forth. And so many years go by. And when she turned 18, 3 letters came back in the mail to me. 3 letters came back in the mail. And I call up the organization. Mind you, now I'm in my 20s, right? Call up the organization. I said, "Hey, I got 3 letters back." I said, "Oh yeah, your sponsorship's over, and your sponsor child is now graduated. Thank you so much." And I said, "Well, can I have her phone number? Can I have her address? I'd like to get her these 3 letters." "Oh no, due to privacy reasons, that's not allowed." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was kind of just like, what do I do now, right?
Right.
So I let it go, and it was still stuck in my mind. Years go by. Facebook comes out, right? So Facebook comes out, and I didn't know this, but my sponsor child was looking me up on a bunch of Nathan Amarals, all in Brazil, of course, right? Of course. So he's asking all these Brazilians, hey, did you sponsor a child in Uganda? They're all, no. One day I get a message from a different name that says, hey, is this the Nathan? Did you sponsor a child in Uganda? Yeah. And I was like, yes. Who are you? Do you know where she is? Well, and I'm just like, typing. And she's like, Nathan, it's me. Yeah. And I'm like, holy smokes, right? So I reconnected with my sponsor child, my pen pal. Okay. Yeah. And I reconnected with her. And that was so cool. So we started our first conversation in 2012. I ended up calling her on the phone on her birthday. I surprise called her on her birthday, heard her voice for the first time in 2012. In 2013, we did our first video chat. So I got to see her for the first time, outside of a picture, right?
Right.
And then in 2013, I was living in North Carolina and I ran into some issues. I took another sabbatical number 2. I said, what am I going to do? Like, where am I going to go? And mind you, I had already been traveling the world. So I was like, a place I had never been. It wasn't like my first time traveling. I'm going to go to Italy or whatever, France. No, I had already been to a lot of those places. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Uganda because I had, I've never been there and I want to go see my friend, my pen pal. Right. Yep. So mind you, I already have a life. I have a girlfriend in Charlotte, right? Things are already going on, but I go to Uganda. Well,
of course.
By the way, I'm not sure, but are you married? Do you have kids? I don't even know. I'm sorry.
Previously divorced.
Previously divorced. Yeah. Sometimes that's a blessing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So I get there and dude, so you felt this feeling before, that moment where you're like, this is the one. Yep. You've had that feeling before. So literally when I got to the airport and I hugged my pen pal, I instantly knew that this was the one for me.
Yep.
Just knew, like, this is your wife. So I didn't say anything at first, but as the 2 weeks went by, the day before I left, I kind of snuck away and found a place and I bought a ring. I asked her to marry me a few hours later.
Yep.
And she said yes. And we were both surprised that we were doing this. She was surprised. Yep. She was shocked. I'm shocked, And she said yes. And then the next day I fly back to the US. I tell my parents. They start crying. They're so happy for me. They didn't think I was going to get married until I was like 40 or whatever.
Yeah. They were so scared about Nathan Amaral. They're like,
is he going to get married?
He's not settling down.
Exactly, right? They were so happy.
Yep.
And within about 30, 45 days, I went back to Charlotte. I sold everything I had, and I moved to Uganda about 30 days later or so. And then 30 days after I moved to Uganda, I had a traditional marriage. I got married in Uganda. And it's so cool. My parents ended up flying out to the wedding. It was so cool. Wow. Even though I didn't know a lot of what was being said, neither did my parents, but they spoke a little bit of English. But just the experience, the cultural experience was phenomenal. One I will never forget.
Yeah.
And then a few months after that, I was, pregnant with my first kid. So.
No kidding. So how old is she? How old's your daughter?
My oldest now, she's about to be 6. Yeah, so that's
nice.
6. Yeah, so I know it was a long story. I'm sorry. That's how I got to Uganda.
That's what happens when you get into real estate, right? It's actually it goes back to the principle of giving, and so from giving from an early age, you were already setting yourself for like the best relationship in your life, the most important relationship in your life, just by giving early on. It was a lot of things that came to help you out there.
You're absolutely right. It was a lot of things. And like I said, at the age of 14, I had something in my heart, man, that was connected to Uganda. So it wasn't just like, I found this pretty girl or anything like that. It was much more deeper than that. So making the move felt natural. So I made the move and I just got soaked into the culture, the environment. And let me tell you, out of all the places I've been over 30 countries in the world. There is not a more progressive place than that country. I can't believe the amount of growth that's happening and most people don't know that. It's not on the front page of newspapers and stuff, but there's a lot of growth that's happening there, and I really like it. And the culture, the people are awesome. It's a good time.
So that's obviously like my in from Sam was like Uganda, right? So my in there, he's we talk about it a little bit, and then when I saw that you were from Uganda now. I was like, dude, like I gotta ask Nathan, like, what is shaking down there? Like Sam makes it sound like the cities are growing, they're expanding.
Oh, it's
and
on
he's not
another
in one
level.
of the villages.
Okay.
So what are you doing in Uganda? Like, do you just live there? You invest everywhere else, or are you active now?
Yeah, here's what I ended up doing business wise. So when I left the United States, I stopped doing as much real estate as I was doing prior, and I actually started a new company in Uganda, a media agency. And because when I got there, I noticed there was a problem. These guys didn't have websites. Celebrities, artists, socialites didn't have mobile apps. Restaurants didn't have mobile apps. I was like, there is a need. I literally started a company. I went door to door. I did that for about 8 months.
Yep.
And I signed up 0 people in Uganda. The biggest barrier was like, how long are you going to be here for?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm here.
Like, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm married. Look.
Here. Yeah, exactly. And I was all in, but that business failed.
Okay.
And I ended up getting other clients from the US actually through that business. So I tried to do that. Then I moved back to what I was already good at, consulting and real estate. So I actually partnered up with another guy in the business. He's actually a Kenyan. Yeah. And I had an office. I have an office down in the main city, Kampala, and I partnered with him. He has one of the best top consulting firms in Uganda, and he's Kenyan, and he left his country to start. And so anyway, he brought me in as a partner and as a board of advisor, and I started to do consulting in Uganda. And I've spoken at a bunch. I've been on TV shows and podcasts, and I've been spoken at a bunch of churches, man. And then I ended up getting back into consulting and property. So today we have a short-term. We have a property business. We have land, and we have short-term rentals. Yep. People know Airbnb, right? Booking.com. Yep. So we have a short-term rental business. I have a manager there. I trained him in the business, but he was already in real estate a little bit. Yep. And so we've been doing that in Uganda. That's what we've been doing, and growing our portfolio there as well.
Wow, it's fascinating, Nate. So I guess your biggest or most recent project is what you're doing, because now I got to find out. Yeah. Why are you back on the islands?
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, because I lived in the Uganda for like a year straight, and then I took my wife, and my first child was born in North Carolina, but I took my wife to the United States. We traveled all over the U.S. Nice. See the sites, all that kind of stuff, the Grand Canyon, New York City, all that stuff. Yeah. And then we had our first child in North Carolina, and then it was, basically we were done touring around, and we went back to Uganda. And I had the rest of my kids there in Uganda. So as this is happening and as I'm growing my family, I'm thinking, well, my parents haven't seen my second born, right? They're like, well, I haven't seen your child born in 2 years. So I was like, how can we work this out? Well, there's a little island that we're all from that's in the middle of both continents. Yep. I said, well, you know what? I started to put it on my vision board. I said, you know what? I think we need to put a little attention on Azores. Because it's the middle ground for where me and my family can meet up. And that's basic. That was that decision, and that's what we've done for right now. And I remember just having it on my vision board in 2017, I think it was. It just, all it said was hotels and apartments in Azores, and I had the island, and that was it, man. Wow. It was just a thought. It was just a seed there planted, and all of a sudden now here we are. We're adding up our portfolio of more apartments and stuff and short-term rentals. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, no kidding. On the island. So I'm here now.
Yeah.
In the Azores. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you're there now. And is your family there with you? You guys hanging out, or are you just there setting the place up?
Well, no, I've done the setting up before. My family was in Uganda, but then we came out here. We were actually here in 2015. We came for a week, and then we came in 2017. We came for like 4 months or something like that. And then in 2019, in November, we've been here since November, and we'll probably be here for maybe another 1 to 2 years or something like that. Yeah. And then I'm not really sure the time frame. We live a very spontaneous life. So if we want to go to Thailand, or that's my next one, so I'm trying to convince my whole family. I want to go to Thailand and Singapore next. So if we want to go to Bali or something like that, then we're just going to go. Right now, we're working on our project.
Let me turn that off.
No problem. Right. We're working on this project here. This is my business partner. We talked about business partners earlier. Yep. It's called Moments Feliz, which is Happy Moments Senior Care.
Yeah.
And this is my business partner here on the island. He's running the senior care facility while I'm still doing what I'm good at, which is real estate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's running a senior care facility. You just invested some cash, invested some time.
Yeah. So what I've done is I've done pretty much the models that you're familiar with. I've done a syndication and I've brought in partners into the transaction. We purchased 26 apartments and then we purchased a mixed use building altogether. There's 26 apartments and the commercial mixed use space is underneath that. Nice. In the commercial space, it actually is the services for the senior care facility, which is the laundry, laundry rooms and laundry press dry fold and the kitchen and the restaurant and the library and the activity room. So it's very unique. It's not the senior, it's not the nursing home style. This is more of an assisted living. It's great. And actually my business partner's been filling up and getting, people signed up and enrolled into the facility.
Yep.
And we're seeing a lot of also expats, people from the United States, Canada, that want to come back to the island and retire here. Because listen, I don't know if I've had some grandparents, they're no longer with us, but I had some grandparents, they were in nursing homes. It's like $8,000 a month.
It's ridiculous.
On the low end in Massachusetts, right? So for a fraction of that, you can get, whether it's a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, you can get fully taken care of here, an assisted living, food, laundry, everything, anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a month, depending on what plan you get.
Yeah, and you're back in the old country.
And you're back in the old country. It's so beautiful, beautiful place to retire. You know what I'm saying?
Best weather in the world, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. So that is, Nathan, full circle. What is the easiest way people can get in touch with you? What is your YouTube channel? What's the easiest way if people want to learn more about you, what you're doing?
I'm over here choking. Sorry, I apologize.
This is the best part.
This is the best part. Well, the best way people can get in touch with me is definitely they can go to Google or YouTube. They can type in Fearless Millionaire. Fearless Millionaire is a brand that helps investors create clarity, build confidence, and gain cash flow. And so they can go onto any of those channels. They can find me there. They can watch a lot of real estate training videos that I do on my YouTube channel. Yep. And then they can go to the website, which is fearless-millionaire.com.
Yeah.
And there they can get some free assets on maybe how to get started in their life. We have a great program called Clear the Fog, which has been getting raving reviews, which I filmed it during COVID when we had our lockdown. I went to the beach and filmed it on the beach. No one was there, just me.
Perfect.
I filmed this entire training. Yeah, it's really helpful to help people get clear and clarity on what they're trying to do in life and in business and in real estate. It's really powerful, specifically for real estate investors. And then again, anything on the YouTube channel, they can reach out to me or shoot me an email there. Yeah.
So fearlessmillionaire.com.
Fearless-millionaire.com.
Awesome. And they can go there. They can learn more about you. You got a lot of free content.
Absolutely.
You're still doing coaching and you're working more in a passive manner. Your portfolio is all over the country.
Yeah, actually more of my coaching is really unique. I'm a little bit more selective, and I do have my clients come out to the island here. So they get to come out to the island, hang out. We've had clients do that right before COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a little limited on the clients that I work with, but yes, if the synergy is right, then we'll work together. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Nathan, that's something I might be interested in down the road. So once COVID clears up, you might get a call from me, brother. That's
absolutely
model. And that gives me an excuse to get back to the islands. I've been to
When's the last time you were here, by the way?
Never been to the islands. So I've been to Lisbon twice.
How dare you?
Trust me, it's
but just out of curiosity, were you born in Lisbon, born in the US,
I was born in the Fall River, right? Born in the city.
You're born in the city. Is your family from Lisboa or from here?
So my dad is from San Miguel, my mom's from America, and my ex-wife's father was from Lisbon. So that's why I kept going out there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, man. You gotta get to the islands. It's oh my gosh. It's
on the to-do list now.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. But now that I can justify it with a business expense, I'd be like, we'll create something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it'd be great. I'd love to show you the short-term rentals, the apartment portfolio that we're building. And just as a side note, I'm sorry, do you hold a Portuguese ID? Are you a Portuguese citizen?
I do not.
You can still get one though, my friend. Don't worry about it. I will talk about that later. because the government is actually creating a stimulus. There's not a stimulus, excuse me. There's incentives programs where you can get money from the government for free, grant money. In the US, they call it grants, okay?
Right.
Here they call it incentives. You can get projects paid for up to 80% of the project, grant money.
I got a buddy here who he owns 13 houses here in Fall River. He's been buying condos in the Azores for the last 5 years. Just keeps buying them, awesome. Renting them out. And he was telling me about some programs. So, Nick, it's a good time to invest in other countries.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, you just got to look at, your future if you have any interest, but I'll tell you, if you ever plan on, traveling or being European and anything like that, or retiring outside of the US, then I would definitely look into citizenship, and there's a lot of good things there.
No kidding, man. Yeah, Nathan, I appreciate it. So one of the most powerful things I do in these interviews is I ask the guests to give us 3 things. If you go back to a 20-year-old Nathan, what are 3 pieces of advice you'd give yourself that would change your life, transform your life, just give you the better life that you already have today? If you could just save yourself and go back, 3 pieces of advice, what would they be?
Wow. Okay. So the first piece of advice I tell myself is, and I'll leave the explicitives out of it.
You're allowed.
I can't. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
But I will say that I would tell myself to just do it. That's the PG version.
Yeah.
To just do it. Second thing I would tell myself is invest sooner. Even though I started young, I didn't invest and save my money. I would get the money, especially as a wholesaler, I would get it and spend it.
Yeah.
And the third thing is I would follow this model a lot more than I do probably in, the past, I'd say 8 years. I've been following a different model of living, and it's a descending model. It's earn, invest. So you're earning, right? You invest first.
Yep.
Some people, give too, but you invest, you save, you give, and then you spend.
Yep.
And that would be the model. Before, for me, it was flipped around. It was earn, spend, give a little, and then save a little and invest nothing, right? I would spend everything I made.
Yep.
And it is actually a story I tell to my clients about the day I spent $21,000 in a day. And that wasn't for buying property, my friend. No, that wasn't buying property. That was just for fun.
Wow.
Just because. And at a very young age, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I just had this addiction. And it was uncontrollable. I didn't know how to control it. And so what you want to do, anyway, I'm not here to be philosophical, but that would be what I tell myself going back. That's it. Yeah. I'm not here to be philosophical, but I'm just saying that's what I would tell my younger self. Like, most importantly, just do it. Just do it. Look, it's no, oh, there it is. It's over here. Just do it, man. Like, no joke. It's a reminder to me every day that, because this is something that I know. I'm the biggest procrastinator I know. I'm the biggest procrastinator I know. It literally sits in the corner, just waiting, just talking to me, right? And if I don't tell myself to get out there and just make it happen, go out there, do it, don't waste time, stop talking about it, be about it, right? Yep. And just get out there and make it happen, then nothing will get done. Nothing will get done. So that's what I tell my younger self.
So it's just do it, buy real estate, and that model you have for
it's earn, invest, save or give, right? Give, save, and then spend. Make sure spending is the last thing you do with your money.
Yep.
So, some people call it live below your means. Some people call it, invest before you spend, whatever it is, the 70-30 rule. But if you just follow that model, man, I'm telling you, you can build long-term wealth. It takes time, have patience, but you can build long-term wealth that way.
Nathan, you've given so much. Honestly, I'd love to do a follow-up in a couple of months. This has been huge for me. You're from the same city as me. You have the same mindset, great parents, and but they didn't have what you have now. What you've accumulated is far more than the average person, especially from our city, but I'd say the average person in America creates and the amount of people, lives you've touched and changed and improved since that moment that you walked on fire and had your life improved, is you're a shining beacon of light and inspiration to not just our little city, but to the whole world. You've had a massive effect, and your investors, the homes you sold to, obviously your wife and your kids. Nathan Amaral, I appreciate you, brother. Cheers to your success.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate what you're doing. Excuse me, seriously. And that's obviously why we've connected, because what you're doing for Fall River, you're giving back to people, because you're on another level mentally, right? Up here, right? You're like, guys, come on,
let's go.
Come on, let's go, right? I know that life. I know it, right? Yeah. And dude, that's how I connected in Uganda. Like, seriously, like nothing against my city where I was born, but for Uganda, that's my calling. And that's where I'm like, come on, guys, we can do it. And we'll just take people to another level. Yeah. So I appreciate what you're doing for Fall River, man. And never give up, keep going forward. And I appreciate you. Even if your students don't tell you they appreciate you, I appreciate what you're doing, man.
Thank you, Nathan. Hey, like you said, man, just do it. Just gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Cheers to your success. And if you want to learn more about Nathan Amaral, go to his website, fearless-millionaire.com. When you have a choice, always work with the best.